Welcome to the Sound of Movement podcast. Today we're wrapping up a week of talking about our skills masterclasses, where we've been discussing training split specificity for your skills masterclass to ensure you build a full weekly training split for balanced results. And today is all about the press to handstand.
Good morning, everybody. Great to be here. If this is your first show with us, my name's Yanni Burmeister. Across the table is my brother Rad, and behind the mixer is Richie, the voice of God. We are Unity Gym, the unified movement system. Big shout out to everyone. If you're watching on YouTube, take this opportunity to smash that like button. It does support the channel. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think about today's discussion. Remember, this series is brought to you by our epic 12 Days of Christmas sale. It's still charging until the 24th of December. When you join UMS Online Coaching, you'll get 14 days free trial, and you're going to get every one of the masterclasses that we've spoken about this week included in your subscription fee. That's an additional $1,200 USD of UMS Masterclass value. I know if you have been listening all week to this series, I gaffed that at the start and said it was 2,000. I got the calculation wrong, and Rad corrected me yesterday, so I do apologize about that. Today we have a very, very important discussion, because the press to handstand is something that you obviously cannot do unless you have some level of handstand skill. I like to think that you'd be able to at least hold yourself in a handstand for 10 or 15 seconds consistently. Maybe every once in a while you fluke a 20 to 30 second handstand, but you need to be able to get up in the handstand. You need all that base level of conditioning, because you know, one of the things we've been doing every show this week, which I think is really important, is talk first about the risks that you face that if you don't get the programming right for that specific skill. So if you're training for handstands and you do not get the conditioning and the base level, we call it preparations phase, where you're conditioning your wrists, shoulders, your neck, things like that, you tend to really, really upset certain areas of the body. We all shared our own experiences yesterday of that. Rad had a wrist injury, I had a shoulder injury, Richie had a forearm injury, forearm tendinopathy. It's just very intoxicating when you start opening up a new skill, and you have to do it a lot because that's the way you get better at it. But if you're not pre-prepared for it, you do run into problems. And what Rad said yesterday was very poignant. If people that are as strong and capable and conditioned as the three of us end up injured doing handstands, then if you're just diving into it for the first time and you're not properly prepared, the chances are you may as well. And don't stress about it. It's probably part of the process, but there are better ways to train, and that's why we create these masterclasses. What do you think, Rad?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you definitely need a baseline level of ability. But that said, I nailed a press to handstand before I could do a long handstand hold. I was in that category that you said, where I could probably do about a 10-second handstand and fluke it every now and then for a 30-second handstand. And it was a lot more work than I expected. And I'm someone that I've seen people that I was better at doing compression strength when they started asking me questions, and within a year or two they're now better than me at it. Kwok is a good example. Looking at Kwok, what he can do now with his straddle V-sit, his straddle hold. They actually call it, I think they call it a straddle L-sit, anyway, whatever it is. You can see it on his Facebook page or Instagram. That's so much better than anything I've ever been able to achieve. And when he started, he wasn't even close to where I was. So following out, the steps, he's gotten a great result.
Yeah, but you have a spondylolisthesis.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, I've got
points your hips in the wrong direction to be able to do that.
I fucking hate it. I put so much fucking work into that move, and I just can't get bloody better.
It just means you got to fight your genetics.
But I still got to press to handstand, and it took me a hell of a lot of work to get there. And it was one of probably my proudest moment with calisthenics. It's the thing that I really wanted. I think it's a really great skill, really great demonstration of strength and flexibility and skill, and it was a proud moment for me. And that's where the Press to Handstand Masterclass was created from, because we did a lot of research in how to do it and how to unlock it ourselves, and then turned it into something that was a simple three-phase program to demystify it. So, look, we've been speaking about load management and injury risks, of course, all week. And if you listened to any of our shows before, you really should pay attention to what we say about that. When it comes to this, the idea is that you do need to prepare yourself with foundational strength training. It can't just be press to handstand training.
Something that I thought about after yesterday's show is that this series, we're going to be using this series and breaking these videos up to go out with the specific masterclass that we're talking about. And there is a very high probability that people are going to listen to each individual show not having listened to the whole series. And so the one thing I did want to do on today's show that I think we failed on yesterday is to actually just pre-frame and build some context around what is load management. We explained it really well on the first couple of shows. We didn't do it on the last couple. Okay. So load management, very simply, I think Phil's cup analogy is a great way to do it. Phil is our resident physio who usually graces the chair next to me. He's away, coming back next week. He says, think of load management or load capacity, your body's load capacity, as like a cup. And we've got this with this cup I'm showing for the people on the podcast on the video here. Your training exposes you to stimulus, to load. And each part of that, each little bit of exposure is like putting water in your cup. It's filling up the cup, filling up the cup. The more resilient you are, the more training you've had, the higher your training age, the stronger you are, the bigger your cup, the more load you can expose your body to before it overflows. An overflow being an injury or an overtraining experience where you might suffer some pain and have to regress a little bit, or go into full-fledged rehab and see a physiotherapist, Mm-hmm. And so we really want to make sure that we're managing how much water we're pouring into our cup on a daily and a weekly basis. And there are a lot of factors that come into that. There are, on the macro level, what are you doing outside of the gym? We had a great discussion in the UMS Movement Mastermind recently from someone who is a labourer or a bricklayer, and they're really physically active, bending over, picking up bricks all day long. And they wanted to sort of see what they should change in the program, in the UMS, especially doing deadlifts, because they're already loading those structures in the body a lot throughout the day. And I said, yeah, absolutely. You don't need to hit yourself with as much volume in your workouts because your lower back's already getting a workout at work. That's what we call load management. Thinking about, what am I exposing my body to? How quickly is my cup going to fill up and potentially overflow? And then when I introduce gym work, how's it going to affect everything? You got to think on a micro level in the gym and on a macro level, Mm-hmm. And so, that's load management in a nutshell. We want to make sure that you guys are learning to manage load, and that's something we really work hard to do in our UMS online coaching group. And it's something that we pride ourselves on. Teaching people how to understand that.
And load is, did you say that load is the combination of intensity and volume?
I didn't know.
Okay, so when you talk about, there's two real factors that manipulate the kinds of exercises you choose, and how, if you talk about weightlifting, how much weight you lift, or if you're talking about calisthenics, how much leverage you use, and that's intensity and volume. And intensity it refers to how heavy. So if you talk about squatting, if you squat 50 kilos, or and then you go up to 60 kilos, you've increased the intensity. And if you go down to 40 kilos, you've decreased the intensity. Volume refers to how much, which means it's a combination of how many reps you do in a set and how many sets you do in a workout. So there's different ways you can talk about volume. So volume would be if you're doing sets of 5 reps and you go up to sets of 8 reps, you've increased the volume. Or if you go down to sets of 3 reps, you've decreased the volume. But then there's other ways to manipulate volume, because if you do 5 sets of 5, that's 25 reps. But if you do 8 sets of 3, it's 24 reps. You've pretty much done the same volume, but in a different way. But so volume and intensity are the combination of both of them refers to load. So you can increase intensity and reduce volume to manage load, or you can increase volume and reduce intensity to manage load, or you can increase both or decrease both, whatever it is. It took us even a while. Like Richard, Yanni, Phil, and me, we all understood this on a basic level, but we actually had to have a conversation between all of us to make sure that we were all on the same page as to how we were going to communicate this with people, because for a very long time we all communicated it differently. We all had a different definition of what intensity was and a different definition of what volume and load was. And we had to all come together and go, well, hang on a minute, let's define this so that we're all saying the same thing and the same message. So when you want to, like, talking about skills masterclasses, if you have access to any of our skills masterclasses, you're trying to achieve something that goes well beyond I just want to change my body a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, you have to acknowledge that. You have to acknowledge that you've made a decision that you want to unlock something that is at a high level.
Yeah.
We're talking middle splits, pancake, back bridge when it comes to flexibility, front splits. We're talking handstands, press to handstands, muscle ups when it comes to calisthenics. These are not basic things, you know. And in the world of gymnastics and calisthenics, it might be considered basic skills, but for what the average punter that goes to the gym for, this is high level stuff. This is the stuff that when you look at the gym, you're seeing the guy or the girl that is the fittest and strongest and most flexible person in the gym performing this stuff. So when you make that decision to do it, you have to respect that you cannot anymore just turn up to the gym and just go through the motions. There's a level of planning and preparation and management, load management, that is so much higher than anything you've ever done before. So until you wrap your head around load management and mitigating injuries and managing the injuries that you've got, until you really go deep into understanding this stuff and understand that it's not going to be a matter of listening to one show and going, oh, I got that, cool, sweet, let's move on to the next thing. It's going to be a real process of learning how to manage this load and learning how to make sure that you don't get injuries.
Yep, absolutely. And with the press to handstand, it's quite I guess it needs to be highlighted, because one of the key elements of a press handstand is compression strength. And for most people in the very beginning of the journey, compression strength is a beast to train, because your body will have never contracted these muscles in these sorts of positions, and your muscles just don't know how to respond and go into spasm most of the time. And we get people all the time who, can only contract in a compressed position for seconds before they're in really uncomfortable cramp, and these cramps are a really normal part of the process. And the way that you overcome them is that you sort of don't focus on them and do more and more of it, so that your body starts to just go, okay, this is all right, I'm not going to need to do this anymore. So the volume in training for a press to handstand is really quite important. You're going to be doing it a lot. Now, I want to just pre-frame before we go further into this discussion. When we talk about today's press to handstand masterclass, we are going to assume that you have done the handstand masterclass, so that you have done the wrist conditioning and the basic core conditioning and all of that, because it's not included in this program to that degree. And we made the assumption when we designed this program that it was going to be a progression somewhat from the handstand masterclass. Yep. Okay, so everybody who, if you've just got this standalone product or program, you really and there's either two ways you can go about this. Either you already have a really nice straight line handstand and you've done all of that and you've got to that level and that's great, or if you haven't started at all, you need to go back and get the handstand masterclass and go through that program first, because it does all the basic conditioning of your core, shoulders, and hands, and that's absolutely critical. You will absolutely ruin your wrists if you start practicing press to handstands without that. Where this program differs is it starts to really work on compression strength and flexibility in the pike and the pancake in the straddle position. And those two areas are absolutely critical for a press to handstand. You just simply can't even get your hands on the floor in a nice position if you don't have the flexibility. Yeah,
and I'd say, in the same way that a handstand is critical for this, there's a certain level of flexibility that is absolutely essential for this. If you don't have a decent pancake and a decent
to start with
position, you don't have a chance of doing a press to handstand. There are people that can do them that don't have a decent pancake, but they are so goddamn strong. Yeah. And the way that they muscle up, when you look at it, it's so inefficient. And if you don't have I don't use this word very often, but if you don't have a superhuman level of strength, then the lack of flexibility, there's no chance you're going to do it. So again, the discussion needs to come in that the Flexibility Masterclass is also a really essential thing to have done. Or you at least need, like when you start this press to handstand program, you need to be able to get a pancake where your legs are completely straight and your spine is fully extended and like straight, erect, like not curved forward at all. And you at least get to probably, I'd say about like past 45-degree angle, like at least just past there. That's where we were when we started. So we might think of that now and go, oh no, you don't need that much. You need more than that, and more is going to be better. But I think we were about there when we started this journey, and we still managed to unlock it. Yeah. But that said, within the press to handstand program, there is a lot of pancake training, but if you don't already have a decent pancake, you're going to need to do more work than what's in there, I think.
Yeah, probably.
And then if we talk about, if we really keep talking about, training dosage, frequency, and intensity, this is a program that we strongly recommend you don't do more than twice a week. It's very demanding. The fatigue that you're going to feel from the compression strength is
in the hip
full
flexors,
on in the hip flexors. You will need at least 72 hours to recover from it. And for a lot of people, twice a week is even too much. We had one of our really highly accomplished students, Connor, who was doing the press to handstand program, and he asked after a month or two of training, he said, man, when I go into these workouts now, my hip flexors are so sore still from the last workout. What am I doing wrong? Should I be doing more compression work? And the answer was no, you should do less.
Yeah.
If that's you can still do the press to handstand training twice a week, but you remove the compression strength component of it on that one day, and you need to allow your body to recover.
Yeah, the thing with when your hip flexors go into sort of spasm and start to really lock up and feel uncomfortable, it can make your lower back feel really bad because they're essentially originating from the lower back and running through the hips to the front of the femur bone, and it really does make you feel tight in the lower back. It can feel quite uncomfortable. It can be uncomfortable walking around. It can be uncomfortable sitting in a chair. Like it's really just
if you find
cool.
that that's you, and if that feeling is just there with you all the time, don't think you need to do more of it. You actually need to do less of it. You need
let it settle down.
You
let
need
the adaptation.
more recovery before you do your next session, rather than thinking I need to do more of this to make myself stronger at it. And play around with that. And this is what we mean about understanding load management. It takes time because you'll have to play around with it. But it's far more common that people get load management wrong by doing more than that people get load management wrong by doing less. It's so I reckon it must be like 5% of the time people get load management wrong by not doing enough. 95% of the time they get it wrong by doing too much.
Absolutely.
And not understanding how recovery creates the adaptation.
Absolutely. Now, very quickly, I want to give a shout out to everyone who's tuned in on the live stream to the UMS Movement Mastermind group. If there's any of you who have a skill that you would like to know where to fit it into your training split, ask us now. Shout out to Lee. She's jumped in and said hi. I would like to know whether any of you have a skill that we haven't discussed this week that you would like to know. It can be like a squat, a deadlift, an overhead press, a bench press. It can be a weightlifting movement. It's not reserved strictly for calisthenics. And then let's talk quickly about let's unpack the UMS Press to Handstand Masterclass. Specifically, what makes it the better way to train to learn press to handstands? The most obvious thing that I like to always beat the drum of is that Rad, Richard, and myself are all personal trainers first, then strength and conditioning coaches second, and we apply very scientific and methodical strength and conditioning to these programs. A lot of the ways that people have unlocked these movements is just by sheer tenacity, not through science. And that's one of the reasons why I really like our calisthenics programs, is because we're not a bunch of guys who have been practicing this since we were teenagers and got the skills really early. We're guys who had to learn after our bodies had gone through all of their adaptation. We came from probably more like military or bodybuilding backgrounds. We had to overcome postural issues and all sorts of things like that as adults in our 30s and 40s. And that changes the game completely, to someone who's unlocked skills skills like this in their teens or early 20s. So that's the first thing I like to say. This is methodical strength and conditioning to unlock a skill. My opinion with the Handstand Masterclass and the Press to Handstand Masterclass, to unlock it, the program will do that for you really well. To master it is just time after that. You just have to spend a lot of time inverted to really get like a 60-second or a 5-minute handstand like the pros do, you know. But to actually get up there and be able to do a perfect straight line handstand for 10, 15 and maybe fluke a few 30 seconds, this program will absolutely do that for you, these programs. And the Press to Handstand, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. Sure. You know, I mean, look, you can see whenever you watch the bumper for our videos, you can see me doing a pretty decent press to handstand. It was, you know, it's I think it, you know, I can keep my legs straight. I can stack my shoulders pretty well. Like we unlocked a decent press to handstand, but if you put us next to a gymnast or a professional hand balancer, they just kick our ass with it, and they look so much better and so much cleaner. But it comes at a high price because it's specialization.
Right. You gotta drop everything else. You know,
that's right. So
if you get one of those guys in here, we'll do a press to handstand and we'll do a handstand. It won't look as nice, but we'll also be able to deadlift 3 times their body weight and squat probably a lot more, bench press a lot more, run faster, jump higher. You know,
all that good stuff. So. Yeah, look, the idea of supercompensation and progressive overload is the same as anything else. You really need to understand that, and with this program, you don't need to understand it, you just need to do it. But what I do want to talk about with progressive overload with the press to handstand is that you are getting into a skill where the way that the program is written out from phase 1, 2 and 3, it's not that you just do phase 1 for 6 weeks and then you do phase 2 for 6 weeks and then you do phase 3 for 6 weeks and voila, there's your press to handstand. That's not how it's going to work for you. For me, the full process of being able to do a press to handstand was about 3 years, but that was about 2.5 years of just doing some basic compression work, and that's all I was doing. I was just trying to build compression strength and flexibility, knowing that one day I'd like to try and unlock a press to handstand, and then one day trying a press to handstand and succeeding with a feet elevated one. When that was after you went with Miguel and you worked with him and you came back and said, I learned this and this about the press to handstand, you should try it. And I got my feet elevated, which makes it way easier because when you elevate your feet, you stack your hips over the shoulders. And I did it. I did a really sloppy one, but I did it. And that made me go, oh my God, this is closer than I thought. And then that's when I doubled down on it. And from that point, I don't know, it was about 6 months or so before I got it. But my point is, what I want to say is, we always talk about progressive overload, but when you look at the press to handstand program, you have to achieve a certain standard with phase 1 before you move to phase 2. And I say that in the program. I say you are not ready to go to phase 2 until you can do X, Y, and Z. That might take you 6 months. It takes.
It's very, when you start to get. Here's the thing, guys, with calisthenics, and I don't want Rad's comment just then about 3 years to turn anyone off, because with calisthenics you are very, very limited to your body's leverage. Like your body's leverage affects how you can do certain movements a lot more than in regular sort of weightlifting. And in weightlifting it still does, but it's not until the elite level where you start to really see that, you know. People with long arms start to out deadlift people with shorter arms and all sorts of stuff like, but then they can't do bench press very well, you know, and people with shorter arms will out bench that person. Yeah, that's obvious. But in calisthenics, like where the fulcrum point of the hips and the shoulders and the leverage and things like that affects it so much that Rad struggled a lot. I did a press to handstand like the 4th time I tried one, you know, because I had that brute strength and just different levers, you know. It was just easier for me. And it's the same with L-sits and things like that. You know, Rad's, because of his spondylolisthesis and his pars fracture and defect, he really struggles to get into an L-sit position. And for much of our childhood, he struggled to do a sit-up. You know, he had to build immense strength before he could do things that would seem quite easy for other people, you know. And that's just what you got to face. And so if that's you, if you have one of those body shapes that make it a little harder to do the skill, it doesn't mean you shouldn't practice doing it. It's just that it might take a little longer for you.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the reason why we believe that the press to handstand masterclass is the better way to train for this is because after we learned how to do a press to handstand, we reverse engineered the process and turned it into 3 simple phases that had very clear milestones that took you from not being able to do a press to handstand at all to being able to do a press to handstand. So it really works. It's really, really good. The way it works is because we combine the elements that are required for it very well, which is the compression strength, the flexibility, and then putting it together into the press to handstand and doing it in a progressive way.
And also just doing it, putting it into a routine. Or
That's right. That's right. Putting it into a workout, not just giving you a whole bunch of things and saying, well, these things are what you use to get there, and then trying to figure out how to put it together. Yep. Of course, the results you can expect are that at the end of the program, you'll be able to do a press to handstand once you do this. Now, what we want to talk about now, of course, is how does it fit into the UMS online coaching program. And I need to make this very, very clear. It comes after the foundations. You do not try and do this while you're doing foundations at all. Focus 100% on the foundations program. Yep. It comes after you've done the handstand masterclass and at least can do a straight line handstand for about 10 seconds, pain-free. You know, for getting beyond 10 seconds is just a matter of needing to do more work, but you can do a straight line handstand. Yep. And it comes after having a moderate level of flexibility, at least in the pancake and the middle splits, which means that if you haven't done it yet, you probably need to work on the Flexibility Masterclass. Once you have done that, once you have achieved those milestones, then you are ready to start working on the press to handstand. The press to handstand out of all the masterclasses is really the highest level one. There's no other masterclass that we say you need to work on another masterclass before you work on this masterclass, but the press to handstand is this. So pay very close attention to this. Now, if you've ticked off all those boxes and your body's conditioned and ready and you've nailed those standards I just said, then the press to handstand comes like this. You either, if you are not willing to do really long training sessions, then you replace the straight arm strength workouts on Wednesday and Saturday. These become your workouts. When Yanni and I did these, they do take about 45 minutes if you really stick to a clock, which means you're sweating and it really fatigues you. And if you're a little bit more cruisy, like the average person, they take about an hour to do. Yeah. So it's more likely that you're just going to straight up replace your straight arm strength workouts. But if you're a very high achiever, like we were, then it is at the start of the straight arm strength workout, and then you do a straight arm strength workout at the end that has a dramatically reduced volume. Yeah. And then you end up training for about 2 hours, when you do that. So that just depends on, how much time you're willing to put into it. And as I said as well, you can also even get a decent result by only doing this once a week. Doing this once a week versus doing it not at all is infinitely better.
100%.
And you may do that once a week just for, if you're not rushing to try and do it, you might do that for 3 months, maybe even 6 months, see how your body responds. And then if you're going well and you think, I really want to double down on this, then bring it in twice a week. Yeah. Because if you just go straight into doing it twice a week, it's very likely that you're going to start feeling some constant DOMs in your hips and lower back that you've never felt before.
Yeah. You're gonna get a really good pike and pancake flexibility from this program. You're gonna get amazing back and shoulder strength, and you're gonna dramatically level up your core and compression strength. You're gonna have abs all freaking day. So it's a great program to pursue. It does need a little bit of prior work and preparation. Well, I do urge everybody who has picked up any of these masterclasses, I'm gonna say this again like a broken record, if you haven't done a general preparations phase of training, if you haven't trained for harder training, balanced your body, balanced symmetry between left and right limbs, balanced joint structure integrity from opposing muscle groups, agonist, antagonist muscle groups, so you've reduced the glide and the damage that occurs in a joint when it's unstable. And if you haven't balanced strength and flexibility, if you're super strong and really unflexible or really flexible but really weak, then you need to go back and do a general preparations phase of training. That's exactly what our Foundations program does. And most good strength coaches or personal trainers will understand what that means and be able to help you out. If you are in doubt, join our UMS movement. Join our UMS online coaching group.
Yeah, because and beyond what Yanni just said as well, you understand that the programs that we've written are extremely effective, but the road to get there is different for everyone. Everybody uncovers issues in their body that are different to each other, and that's where you need access to good coaches like what we provide you access to in the UMS online coaching program.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that when you come across these issues, you can say, hey, what do I do about this? Like just recently, yesterday, Kevin Lee posted video of him doing a head to toe stretch, meaning he touches his forehead to his toe. That's an insane level of flexibility, and he makes this big comment saying, yes, one down, one to go, meaning that he got it on one side. On the other side, it's about 3 fingers away. And someone, Harrison, has come in and said, how long did it take you to achieve this? This is my 6 weeks of home workout. He's been doing the home workouts for 6 weeks. And Kevin has said, it's been a good 18 months, at least since I first started, but progress wasn't anywhere near linear or continuous. I've been through some grade 1 hamstring tears, high hamstring tendinopathy, etc., which set me back. And he's saying that a key difference to him, to what got him there, was that when he was doing it on his own before the UMS online coaching program, he was just basically doing general stretching. He didn't understand the concept of end range strength and of strengthening, and it's through the coaching that we've provided him that he's been able to work through these hurdles and develop an insane level of flexibility, like superhuman levels. But yeah, it's through access to people that can say, hey, this is why you've achieved this and this is what your strategy needs to be to get around it, which goes well beyond here's the program, just follow that.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys,
absolutely. And remember, 12 days of Christmas, it goes all the way until next Thursday. You've got a great opportunity, 14-day free trial plus every masterclass we've created to date included. Get onto it. What have you got to lose? Now, speaking of online coaching, we're a minute late. We need to jump over to the online coaching group for our weekly group coaching call. We got lots and lots of tribe members in there posting videos of their progress that we need to help them out with. So we will see you next week. Next week is going to be a cracking series. We're doing our goal setting and motivation series Monday through Thursday to Christmas Eve. Anyone who wants to achieve more in 2021 than you achieved to date, this series is for you. We're going to show you how to hack motivation and set goals that you will actually achieve. Until then, have a great weekend, everybody. Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, it's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that far.
It's the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.